Have you ever spent your life giving everything to those you love, only to realize when you need them the most, they're nowhere to be found? The sting of abandonment from the ones we expect the most from cuts deeper than anything else. But sometimes, it's in the silence of those who've stepped away that we discover who really matters. This is a story of a mother, Amanda, who thought she knew what family meant. After years of devotion and sacrifice, she found herself alone in a hospital bed, abandoned by the very daughter she'd raised. But amidst the hurt, a quiet revelation came, and it was her daughter-in-law, Claire, who became her unwavering support. What happens next is a story of betrayal, redemption, and the powerful choice of love, not by blood but by presence. Stick around, because by the end of this journey, you'll learn that sometimes, the family we need isn't the one we expect. For over 2 weeks, Amanda lay in that sterile hospital room, the white walls closing in around her. Each day blended into the next, marked only by the rhythmic beeping of the heart monitor and the soft footsteps of nurses who came in to check her vitals. Her body, once strong and capable, now felt frail and weak. She had hoped her daughter, Emily, would be there by her side, comforting her through the hardest time in her life. After all, Emily was her daughter. Yet, as the days turned to weeks, not a word, not a visit, not a call from Emily. Ironically, it was Claire, her widowed daughter-in-law, a single mother working tirelessly to provide for her own daughter, who showed up every single day. Claire, the quiet strength of the family, was there when Emily wasn't. She brought Amanda her favorite cup of tea, changed her bandages, and made sure the doctors were doing their part. Every small act Claire did carried more weight than Amanda ever realized. But despite all the care and concern Claire showed, something inside Amanda was slowly changing. The very person she had thought was just an in-law, someone outside the circle of family, was becoming her rock, while the daughter she had raised, loved, and sacrificed for her own flesh and blood was absent. And so, Amanda made a decision that would shape not just her future, but the future of her family. What she did next might surprise you, but it's a decision many of us would be too afraid to make. Let me tell you how a mother's heart was tested, how betrayal became the catalyst for change, and how, in the end, Amanda learned what true family really meant. Amanda lay in her hospital bed for 2 long weeks, feeling every minute stretch on like an eternity. The bright, sterile white walls of San Francisco General seemed to close in around her, while the beeping of the heart monitor became the only constant sound. Every morning when she woke up, she would check her phone, hoping for a message, a missed call, anything from Emily, her daughter. But there was nothing. No messages, no calls, just silence. In the past, when Amanda had been the one running around, taking care of everything for everyone, she'd always believed that Emily, her only daughter, would be there for her when the time came. She had sacrificed so much over the years for Emily's happiness, her success, and her well-being. Yet, in Amanda's time of need, her daughter was nowhere to be found. "I'm too busy, Mom," Amanda remembered hearing her daughter say during their last phone call. "Work is overwhelming right now, and I just can't step away." The words stung more than the pain in her abdomen. Emily's words weren't just an excuse. They were a final confirmation that, for her, everything else always came first. The meetings, the deadlines, the distractions. All of it came before her mother, lying in a hospital bed thousands of miles away. Meanwhile, there was Claire, her daughter-in-law, the woman Amanda had always kept at arm's length, not because she didn't care for her, but because the relationship had always been a quiet, polite one. Claire was a single mother, juggling her job and raising Lily, Amanda's granddaughter. Yet, despite her own busy life, Claire made it a point to be there every single day. Every day, Claire would bring Amanda her favorite warm water, just the way she liked it. She would check in with the doctors, change her bandages, and make sure everything was in order. There were no grand gestures, no dramatic displays. Claire's care was steady, constant, and quiet. She was simply present. Amanda found herself grappling with an internal conflict. Her flesh and blood, Emily, the one she had given everything for, had abandoned her when she needed her the most. And then there was Claire, someone she had never fully understood, who had quietly stepped into the gap and cared for Amanda with a kind of unspoken love. The truth hit Amanda harder than the surgery she had undergone. Real care is not measured by promises or shared blood. It's measured by the presence of someone who shows up when it matters most. As Amanda lay there, exhausted and in pain, she couldn't help but wonder. How had she never seen it before? How had she never truly recognized Claire's quiet strength, her selflessness, and the depth of her care? The harsh reality of family dynamics can be so painful. Sometimes, the ones we expect the most from are the ones who disappoint us the hardest. And often, the people who silently show up for us in our darkest moments are the ones we've overlooked all along. While Amanda lay in her hospital bed, feeling the sharp sting of abandonment, Claire's presence was a constant, steady comfort. Every day, without fail, Claire would show up, sometimes rushing from work, sometimes slipping in during her lunch breaks, but always there, without a word of complaint. It didn't matter how hectic Claire's day had been. No matter how tired, how worn out from raising her daughter, Lily, on her own, Claire never once faltered in her care for Amanda. Claire wasn't just the daughter-in-law who checked off a list of responsibilities. She didn't just visit out of obligation, bringing meals or running errands because it was expected of her. No, Claire gave more than that. She gave a part of herself. Every time Amanda's bandages needed changing, Claire was the one to do it, hands steady, her touch gentle. When Amanda was in pain, Claire was the one to soothe her with a warm drink, just the way Amanda liked it, even when she was exhausted from her own responsibilities at home. She made sure the doctor's orders were followed, checked the medication, and even stayed by Amanda's side through each doctor's visit, quietly listening, processing, and caring, without ever drawing attention to her efforts. The stark contrast between Claire's dedication and Emily's absence hit Amanda hard. Emily had been the one she'd always imagined would care for her in her later years. She'd raised Emily on her own, supported her dreams, and given her everything she had. But in Amanda's moment of need, Emily was too busy, too caught up in her world to care. Claire, on the other hand, wasn't bound by blood, but she stepped into the role with such grace and devotion that it made Amanda wonder. Had she taken Claire for granted all these years? Claire wasn't seeking recognition for her actions. She never asked for praise, never expected anything in return. Her love wasn't loud or flashy. It was quiet, steady, and selfless. She was simply there, giving of herself without a second thought, because that's what family does. Claire's actions spoke volumes about her character. She didn't make promises she couldn't keep or offer empty words. She showed up when it mattered most, proving that love and loyalty aren't about what you say but what you do. Amanda had always respected Claire, of course, but she'd never truly understood the depth of her character until now. As Claire tended to her needs, Amanda realized just how much Claire had silently carried over the years. It wasn't just the big things like raising Lily alone and working to support them both, but the little things, the quiet moments of care, that truly made Claire a part of the family. Amanda had missed it before, but now it was impossible to ignore. Love and loyalty are not measured by grand gestures or well-intentioned words, but by the consistency of one's actions. In many families, the people who step up and show true devotion may not always be the ones you expect. Sometimes the most unlikely family member, like Claire, becomes the true pillar of support. It is through actions, not words, that the bonds of family are tested and proven. Amanda stared out the hospital window, the faint hum of the heart monitor in the background, and felt a deep, unexpected calm wash over her. The morning light filtered through the glass, casting a soft glow across the sterile room. As her thoughts drifted, her mind kept returning to the same question: who do I trust? The decision before her felt monumental, as though every moment of her life had led to this very point. 2 weeks of pain and abandonment had forced Amanda to see things more clearly than ever before. Emily, her daughter, the one she had raised and loved with every ounce of her being, had not once stepped up. She had made excuses, always busy with her own life, with her meetings, her deadlines, and her endless distractions. Amanda had always hoped that, when it mattered most, her daughter would be there for her. But now, lying in the hospital bed, with her body vulnerable and her spirit exhausted, Amanda could no longer deny the truth. Emily had failed her. Then there was Claire, her daughter-in-law, a quiet presence, a person who had never asked for anything in return. Claire had been there every single day. She'd never wavered. Even when her own life was difficult, juggling work, raising Lily alone, Claire had given Amanda the care she needed without a second thought. She had been more of a daughter to Amanda than Emily had been in years. And the more Amanda reflected, the more she realized. Claire was the one who truly deserved my trust. Amanda knew what she had to do. But even as she made her decision, a pang of guilt settled in her chest. Could she really leave everything to Claire and little Lily? Was it fair to Emily? The thought of disinheriting her daughter, the child she had once hoped would care for her, was painful. But the truth was clear. Emily hadn't earned that trust. She had turned her back on Amanda in her time of need. And trust is something that must be earned, not simply given because of blood. It wasn't just about money. Amanda had worked hard for the home she had built, the one where she and her family had made countless memories. The house wasn't just a piece of property. It represented everything Amanda had worked for, every sacrifice she had made. And now, in the twilight of her life, she had come to realize that her legacy wasn't something to be given to someone who hadn't shown her love or respect in return. It wasn't something she could leave to someone who hadn't truly stood by her when it counted most. Claire and Lily would be the beneficiaries of her will. Amanda felt a sense of peace in that decision, even as the weight of it bore down on her. She was doing what felt right, not just for her but for the future of her family. It was the first time in years that Amanda felt as though she had taken control of her life, instead of letting life take control of her. The decision wasn't easy, and it came with its own kind of pain. But it was a pain rooted in clarity, in the understanding that family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by who shows up for you when you need them the most. The morning light had barely begun to filter into Amanda's hospital room when the door swung open with a force that made the air snap. There stood Emily, her face flushed with anger, her eyes blazing with frustration. "Mom!" Emily's voice was sharp, accusatory, her footsteps pounding across the room toward Amanda's bed. "I just got a call. What is this nonsense about you leaving everything to Claire? To her? She's not even your blood. What are you thinking?" Amanda felt a sharp pang in her chest. She had known this moment would come. She had prepared herself for Emily's reaction, but nothing could have prepared her for the sting of her words. Emily's entitlement was as clear as day. Her expectation that everything, especially the house, should naturally go to her because, after all, she was the daughter. Amanda had always hoped that, at the end of her life, her daughter would be the one to care for her. But now, standing in front of her, Emily's words were like a slap to the face. "Mom, this is insane," Emily continued, pacing the room, her voice growing louder. "You've always said you didn't play favorites. But now, after everything, after all I've done for you, you're leaving it to her, to Claire. She's barely part of this family." Amanda's heart twisted, but she refused to back down. For years, she had stood quietly, watching Emily's emotional distance, accepting the fact that her daughter had always been too busy for her. But today was different. Amanda's eyes locked onto Emily's, her voice firm, though her heart was racing. "You don't get it, do you?" she said, her words steady despite the hurt. "Claire has been the one who's been here for me. Not you. Not once did I feel your presence when I needed it. You've been too wrapped up in your life to see what I've been going through. Claire has been here every single day. She never asked for anything, and she was here when I couldn't rely on anyone else." Emily froze, her face shifting with disbelief, her mouth opening and closing as if she couldn't find the words. She had never heard her mother speak so directly, so resolutely. Amanda wasn't the weak, neglected woman she had seen over the years. No, today Amanda was strong enough to speak her truth, to defend the decision that she had made, and to stand up for herself in a way she never had before. "Mom, this isn't right. I'm your daughter. I've been here for you in the past. You promised this house would be mine." Emily's words were filled with an ugly mix of entitlement and hurt, but there was no self-awareness in them. She didn't seem to understand that her absence over the years was a betrayal in itself. Amanda's silence had let it fester, but today, she would no longer be silent. Amanda took a deep breath, fighting the emotions welling up inside her. "You've been too busy to care. Too busy to visit me, too busy to pick up the phone. The truth is, Emily, you haven't been here when I needed you. This house. It's not just a place, it's my life's work. And I'm giving it to the one who has been here, who has shown me real care. Claire deserves this, not you." Emily's face flushed even deeper, her fists clenched at her sides. "This is ridiculous," she spat. "You're just playing favorites now. I've done more for you than you know." She turned away for a moment, as if trying to calm herself, but it was clear that the anger was rising in her chest, ready to explode. "Really?" Amanda's voice was low, but the words cut through the tension like a blade. "What did you do when I needed someone by my side in that hospital? What did you do when I was lying in pain, begging for you to show up? You stayed home with your meetings and deadlines. Claire was the one who stood by me every day. She earned my trust, not you." The room went silent for a moment, the weight of Amanda's words hanging heavy between them. Emily's mouth opened as if she wanted to argue, but she couldn't. Her expression shifted from fury to something Amanda couldn't quite place. Perhaps realization, perhaps shame. It was a fleeting moment, but it was there, just for an instant. I can't believe you're doing this to me," Emily whispered, her voice breaking for the first time. Amanda sat up straighter, meeting her daughter's eyes with a calm, unwavering gaze. "I didn't want to hurt you, Emily. But the truth is, love isn't just about blood. It's about who's there for you when you're at your lowest. Claire has been there for me. She didn't have to be, but she chose to be. And that's why I'm leaving everything to her." Emily stood motionless for a moment, as if processing the depth of her mother's words. Then, without saying another word, she turned and stormed out of the room, her heels clicking sharply against the floor, each step echoing like a final judgment. Amanda watched her go, feeling a strange sense of release. It wasn't easy. Standing up to Emily felt like an emotional earthquake, but it was necessary. Amanda had made her choice, and though it might have hurt, it was the right decision. After Emily's storming out, Amanda sat alone in the quiet room. The sound of her heart monitor's steady beeping filled the silence, but in her mind, all she could hear was the echo of Emily's angry words. The sting of betrayal had cut deep, and yet, in the midst of the pain, a quiet clarity began to settle over Amanda. For so many years, Amanda had prided herself on being a loving mother, giving everything for her daughter, Emily. She had sacrificed her own desires, her own happiness, for Emily's well-being, believing that one day, Emily would repay that love and devotion. But as the events of the past few weeks unfolded, Emily's absence, the callousness of her responses, it became clear to Amanda that the love she had given so freely had not been returned in kind. As she lay there, the reality of the situation began to sink in. Why hadn't I noticed before? Amanda asked herself. Why had she never truly seen what was right in front of her? The answer came slowly, like a fog lifting from her mind. Claire. The woman who had always been a quiet, unassuming presence in her life. The woman who had, day after day, given her time, her energy and her care, without asking for anything in return. Amanda's thoughts turned to Claire's constant support. Claire had been there for her when no one else was. She had been the one to sit by Amanda's side, day after day, with no fanfare. She had made sure Amanda's medicine was on schedule, that her bandages were changed, and that she had a warm drink at her side. Claire had taken on a role that Amanda never expected, but in hindsight, she realized Claire had been there when she needed her the most. It wasn't just about the physical care, though. Amanda had been blind to Claire's sacrifices over the years. After Brian's death, Claire had stayed by their side, raising her daughter, Lily, while quietly carrying the weight of their shared grief. Amanda had seen Claire as her daughter-in-law, but now, in this moment of vulnerability, she understood. Claire wasn't just her daughter-in-law. She was her daughter in every sense of the word. Amanda's heart clenched with regret. She had never fully acknowledged Claire's sacrifices, had never truly appreciated the quiet strength Claire had shown. She had been so focused on her own pain, on the neglect she felt from Emily, that she had failed to see the ways Claire had been carrying their family on her shoulders all this time. She hadn't thanked her, hadn't truly recognized what Claire had done. The guilt washed over Amanda like a tide, but with it came the sharp sting of realization. Why had I kept my distance from her? Why had I always treated Claire as an outsider, when she had been the one to stand by me all along? Amanda could no longer deny the truth. Claire had earned her place in the family, not by blood, but by her constant actions, her care, and her unwavering support. She felt a deep ache in her chest, not just from the physical pain of her surgery, but from the weight of her newfound understanding. I've been blind, Amanda thought. I've allowed my own assumptions to shape how I see the people around me. I should have seen Claire for who she truly is. A daughter, a true family member. In that moment, Amanda realized that family wasn't about titles or bloodlines. It was about who showed up for you day after day, without asking for anything in return. It was about those quiet moments, those sacrifices made in love, and the people who chose to stay when everyone else walked away. Now that Amanda has made her decision, standing up for herself and choosing who truly deserves her trust, we want to hear from you. What do you think of Amanda's decision? Do you believe it's fair to prioritize those who have always been there for you, even if they're not blood relatives? Or do you think she should have put more effort into making amends with Emily? Drop a comment below and let us know how you feel about the choices Amanda made. Has anyone in your life ever shown you unexpected loyalty? We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences. Let's talk about family, trust, and the bonds that hold us together. As the days passed after Emily's outburst, Amanda's world slowly began to settle into a new, quieter rhythm. The immediate chaos had died down, but the emotional toll of the events was heavy. Emily's anger still echoed in her mind, and even though she had stood up for herself, Amanda couldn't help but feel the weight of the conflict. Her body, still recovering from surgery, felt fragile and vulnerable. The house felt cold and empty, just as it had before, but this time it wasn't just the absence of Emily. It was the absence of any easy answers, any clear way forward. And then there was Claire. Claire didn't need to say anything more. She didn't need to voice her anger or disappointment. After all, she wasn't the one who had been betrayed. Instead, she simply did what she had always done. She showed up. Claire was the quiet force that kept the storm inside Amanda at bay, providing stability where everything else felt uncertain. Every morning, Claire arrived with a calm that immediately put Amanda at ease. She never asked for recognition, she just showed up. She was there to make sure Amanda took her medication, to bring her favorite foods, to tend to every little detail that Amanda didn't have the strength to handle. And beyond that, she was there to listen, to sit in the silence when Amanda needed space, and to offer a soft smile when words felt too much. Claire had a way of being present that was unlike anyone else. It wasn't just that she kept Amanda physically comfortable. It was that she brought an emotional calmness that Amanda hadn't realized she needed until now. Claire was both a mother and a daughter-in-law, juggling her responsibilities with her own daughter, Lily, and yet she carried the weight of the family with a quiet grace. She had every right to complain, every reason to be angry or resentful after everything that had unfolded, but Claire never made it about her. She didn't demand any special treatment. She didn't say, "Look at all I've done for you." Instead, she simply continued to care. Every action she took, from cleaning Amanda's room to checking the doctor's notes to making sure the house was ready for her return, spoke louder than any words of comfort ever could. Amanda began to see Claire in a new light. She realized that Claire was a woman of incredible strength, not the kind that comes from loud words or dramatic gestures, but the kind that comes from quietly bearing the weight of the world without asking for anything in return. In the face of her own challenges, Claire had not only managed her responsibilities but had stepped into a role Amanda had never truly expected her to fill. And in doing so, Claire had become Amanda's anchor. She wasn't just helping Amanda through her physical recovery. She was helping her heal emotionally. When Amanda looked at Claire, she saw a woman who had given so much of herself, a woman who wasn't afraid to carry the burdens of others. Claire had taken on the responsibility of both raising Lily and taking care of Amanda, all without so much as a hint of hesitation. In that moment, Amanda realized just how much she had underestimated Claire's strength, and how much she had taken her for granted. Claire had been the one to quietly shoulder the weight of the family's struggles, never asking for applause, never demanding a reward. Her strength came from her humility, her unwavering commitment to those she loved, and her ability to remain calm when everything around her was falling apart. Despite the clarity Amanda had found in her decision, she wasn't free from Emily's anger. It was as though a storm that had been brewing for weeks was finally reaching its peak. Emily was relentless, still furious, still demanding what she believed was rightfully hers. One afternoon, just as Amanda was finishing her lunch, the door opened, and in stepped Emily, her face set in a tight, angry line. She didn't bother with pleasantries. The moment she walked in, she started. "We need to talk." "I'm not done with this," Emily snapped, her voice cold and firm. Claire, who had been sitting quietly nearby, looked up from her book but said nothing. She knew what was coming. This time there would be no softening the blow. Emily was back and she was angry. This was her last attempt to get Amanda to see things her way. Emily didn't waste time with small talk. She went straight for the heart of the matter. "You're making a huge mistake, Mom. This decision, leaving everything to Claire, it's insane. You're being irrational, and I'm not going to stand by and let you make choices like this." Amanda's heart began to race, but she didn't flinch. Instead, she took a slow, deliberate breath. This time, she wouldn't let Emily intimidate her. She wouldn't back down. For once, she was ready to defend herself. Emily continued, her voice dripping with frustration. "You've been emotionally manipulated, you know. Claire has been playing this role and you've fallen for it. You don't even realize what she's doing. This isn't love, it's manipulation. And now you're handing her everything. Our family home, the legacy of our family, to someone who's only been around for a few years." Claire sat quietly beside Amanda, her gaze unwavering. She didn't speak, didn't interject, but her presence was a calming force in the room. Her strength was silent but felt deeply in the tension that filled the air. Emily's words were harsh, but Claire didn't flinch. She simply stayed close, offering her quiet, steady support to Amanda without saying a word. Amanda looked at Emily, her expression calm but resolute. "You don't get to tell me what's irrational, Emily." "I'm not irrational, I'm clear," Amanda said firmly, her voice steady. "Claire has been here for me in ways you never were. When I was sick, when I was alone, Claire was the one who showed up. She didn't ask for anything. She didn't expect anything. She was just there." Emily's face contorted in disbelief. "You've got to be kidding me. Are you really going to let her take everything from me? This house, it's mine, Mom. I've been your daughter my whole life. You owe me this." Amanda felt the familiar rush of anger and frustration that she'd always tried to suppress. But this time she stood firm. She didn't let it take over. She wouldn't let Emily control her. "You think because you're my daughter that you're entitled to everything? That just because you share my blood, you automatically deserve this house?" Amanda's voice grew stronger. "Emily, love and loyalty are earned. You don't get to walk in here and take what's mine just because of who you are. You haven't been here when I needed you, and Claire has. So no, this decision isn't about favoring her. It's about recognizing who has truly been there for me." Emily's eyes flickered with hurt, but the anger didn't fade. "You really expect me to believe that?" she spat. "You're choosing her over your own daughter?" Amanda shook her head slowly, her gaze unwavering. "This isn't about choosing her over you, Emily. This is about choosing myself. And realizing that what matters most in life is who shows up, who cares when it counts." There was a long silence as Emily stood there, her eyes scanning Amanda's face, searching for something. Anything that would make her change her mind. But Amanda didn't waver. She wasn't the same woman she had been weeks ago. She had learned something through the pain, the betrayal, and the quiet strength of Claire. She had learned to stand up for herself, to make decisions that were right for her, not out of obligation or fear of upsetting anyone. Finally, Emily spoke, her voice softer but still tinged with anger. I don't understand. You've always been there for me. Why can't I have this?" Amanda met her daughter's eyes, no longer feeling guilt, but a kind of calm resolution. "Because I've always been there for you, Emily. And I've learned that sometimes, being there for someone doesn't mean giving them everything. Sometimes it means letting them face the consequences of their own actions." Emily stood in the room for a few moments longer, the silence between them thick with unspoken words. And then, with a sharp sigh, she turned and walked out, her footsteps echoing down the hallway. The door clicked shut behind her, and Amanda felt something shift inside her. A weight lifted, a sense of finality settling over her. The sun was shining brightly on a warm Saturday afternoon, and the house buzzed with excitement. It was Lily's birthday, and the air was filled with the sounds of children laughing, the soft hum of music, and the familiar scent of cake baking in the oven. The decorations were cheerful, bright balloons hanging from the ceiling, and colorful banners dotted the walls. Claire was busy in the kitchen, stirring frosting into the perfect shade of pink, while Lily dashed around, her little hands full of excitement as she eagerly awaited the guests. Amanda, sitting on the couch with a warm cup of tea, looked at the scene with a sense of quiet contentment. The past few weeks had been filled with so much tension, so much pain. But now, for the first time in a long while, there was a peace that settled in her heart. Then the doorbell rang. Amanda's heart skipped a beat. She didn't need to look to know who it was. Emily had arrived. It had been weeks since their last confrontation, and despite the unresolved tension between them, this was a small victory. Emily had shown up. She had made an effort. When Emily walked in, she was dressed simply in a beige sweater and jeans, carrying a small gift bag in one hand. She seemed slightly uncomfortable, hovering near the door as if unsure of her place in this new dynamic. Amanda met her gaze across the room, and for a moment their eyes locked. There were no grand words, no apologies, but there didn't need to be. It was a quiet acknowledgement, a subtle shift in the air between them. Lily, as usual, didn't hesitate. The moment she saw her aunt, she squealed with joy and ran to Emily, throwing her little arms around her waist. "Aunt Emily, you came." Lily's voice was filled with the innocent joy that only a child could possess, completely unaware of the tension that had once plagued her family. Emily smiled, though it was tentative, still carrying the remnants of the earlier distance. She knelt down to Lily's level, handing her the gift. "Happy birthday, sweetheart," she said softly, her voice warmer than Amanda had heard in weeks. Amanda watched the interaction, her heart swelling just a little. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Emily wasn't running away this time. She wasn't withdrawing into her own world. She had come. And that small gesture, showing up, making the effort, was everything. As the party continued, there was a subtle shift. Emily joined in with the party's festivities, though her participation was still somewhat detached. She helped Claire with setting up, putting the finishing touches on the birthday cake, and even joking around with some of the neighbors. It wasn't the enthusiastic warmth of someone fully invested in the moment, but it was enough. It was the beginning of something new. Something fragile but real. Amanda watched from her seat, feeling a wave of emotions. It wasn't the family reunion she had dreamed of. There were no grand, tear-filled apologies or perfect reconnections. But as she watched Claire, Emily, and Lily work together in the kitchen, she realized that healing wasn't about perfection. It wasn't about erasing the past. It was about showing up. It was about taking those small steps forward, even when the road ahead was uncertain. Lily, of course, was thrilled. Her favorite people were together under one roof, celebrating her special day. And for Amanda, that was enough. She didn't need everything to be fixed in one day. She just needed to know that there was a possibility for healing, a glimmer of hope that things could get better, even if slowly. The party ended with a small group photo in the backyard, under the large oak tree. The three of them, Amanda, Emily, and Claire, stood together with Lily in the middle, arms outstretched like she was trying to hold the world in her tiny hands. It was a fleeting moment, but for Amanda, it was a moment of peace. There was no drama, no fighting, just the simple act of being together, of being present. As the guests trickled out and the afternoon sun began to set, Amanda found herself alone for a moment, standing by the window. She felt a lightness in her chest. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't the way she had imagined it would be. But for the first time in a long time, Amanda felt the quiet stirrings of hope. She had made her choices. She had stood firm. And now, she was starting to see the first signs of reconciliation. The house was quiet now. The laughter and chatter from Lily's birthday party a distant echo. The sun had set, casting long shadows across the garden, and Amanda found herself sitting alone by the window, the soft glow of the streetlights outside casting a peaceful light across the room. It had been a long, emotional journey, one that had left her bruised but not broken. She had faced the painful truth that her family wasn't the picture-perfect unit she had always imagined. But now, as she reflected on everything that had happened, there was a sense of calm settling over her. A sense of peace that she hadn't known she needed. Amanda wasn't the woman who had waited for a phone call that never came anymore. She wasn't the woman who stood in the doorway, hoping for her daughter's attention, only to be left empty-handed. No, that woman had been replaced with someone different. Someone stronger. Someone who had learned that waiting for others to give you what you want is a fruitless endeavor. What had truly changed was Amanda's understanding of family. She realized that love isn't defined by who shares your blood. It's defined by who shows up when you need them most. Emily, despite being her flesh and blood, had failed to show up in the most crucial moments. It was Claire, her daughter-in-law, not even by birth, who had quietly stepped in and become the daughter Amanda never expected. Claire hadn't asked for anything in return. She had given without hesitation, without expectation. It was Claire who had proved, through actions, what it meant to be family. The pain of the past few weeks still lingered in Amanda's heart, but it wasn't the kind of pain that weighed her down anymore. It was a release, an understanding that, in the end, family is a complex, ever-evolving thing. It isn't always about perfection. It's about who sticks around, who supports you, and who chooses to stand by you when things get tough. Amanda thought of Claire's steady presence, her unwavering support, and her quiet strength. She thought of the way Claire had stayed by her side, even when it wasn't easy. And in that moment, Amanda felt a deep sense of gratitude. It wasn't about forgiving Emily. It was about accepting the reality of who she was, and more importantly, who had been there for her when she needed it the most. She had learned to let go of the expectations she had placed on her daughter, the idea that Emily would always be the one to care for her. She had learned that love doesn't come with conditions. It's not about what you're owed or what you expect. It's about what you give and what you receive in return, unspoken and unconditional. Amanda closed her eyes for a moment, her hands resting softly in her lap. A calmness washed over her, and for the first time in a long while, she felt truly at peace. The lessons had been hard, the road painful, but now she knew that what she had with Claire was real, not born from obligation or expectation, but from love and loyalty that had been earned. She wasn't angry anymore. She wasn't disappointed. She was simply grateful for the lessons, for the growth, and for the people who truly showed up. Claire, who had earned Amanda's love and respect. Lily, who brought a lightness and joy into her life. And even Emily, in her own way, who had forced Amanda to confront her own expectations and desires. Amanda didn't have all the answers. There would still be bumps in the road, moments of tension and distance. But for the first time, Amanda understood something that had always eluded her. Family doesn't have to be perfect to be real. And sometimes, it's through the cracks that the light shines the brightest. The day was quiet, almost serene, as the sun began to set behind the old oak tree in the backyard. The house, once filled with tension and unspoken words, now felt like a place of stillness, of peace. Amanda sat at the kitchen table, her hands resting on a stack of papers, the final draft of her trust agreement laid out in front of her. It had taken weeks for her to come to this moment, weeks of reflection, emotional turmoil, and quiet understanding. And now, with the pen in her hand, Amanda was about to make a choice that would define the next chapter of her life. Claire sat across from her, her eyes calm, her presence a steady force of support. Lily was playing in the living room, her laughter echoing softly through the house, a sound that always made Amanda's heart swell. For a moment, Amanda let herself breathe in the peace that surrounded her. This was her family, in its imperfect yet beautiful form. And this moment, this quiet act, was her way of showing them, once and for all, who she had chosen. As Amanda picked up the pen, she felt the weight of her decision. It wasn't just about the house or the assets or the money. It was about something far more important: trust. It was about recognizing the people who had truly been there for her, the ones who had given without expectation, who had loved her through the darkest moments. Claire and Lily had earned this, not because of blood, but because of the actions that had spoken louder than any words ever could. Amanda paused for a moment, her hand hovering over the paper. She thought of all the years spent waiting for Emily, hoping for her daughter's care and attention. She thought of the pain, the disappointment, and the realization that sometimes love can't be demanded, but must be earned. And then she thought of Claire, the quiet strength, the steady presence, the way Claire had shown up every single day without fail. This was the woman who had earned her trust. This was the woman who had proven what family really meant. With a deep breath, Amanda signed the document, the final strokes of her pen sealing her decision. She wasn't just signing over her house. She was signing over her future, her peace of mind, and her understanding of what family really meant. It wasn't about who you were born to. It was about who you chose to love and who chose to love you in return. Claire, sitting silently beside her, gave a small, knowing smile. She didn't need to say anything. The bond between them had already been cemented through action, not words. Amanda had made her choice, and Claire had always known that she would. The silence between them spoke volumes. Amanda looked up from the papers, her eyes meeting Claire's. There was no need for grand speeches, no need for any more apologies. The understanding between them was complete. This was the beginning of something new, something built on the quiet sacrifices and unspoken love that had always been there, even when Amanda hadn't recognized it. Amanda stood and walked to the window, looking out at the garden. The evening light cast a soft glow over the flowers, the shadows growing long as the day turned to night. She felt a sense of completion, of finality. Her legacy was now in the hands of those who truly deserved it. The past was behind her, and the future stretched out before her, bright with possibility. Thank you so much for listening to today's story. The lesson we can take away from Amanda's journey is that true love and trust are built through actions, not words. Family is about who shows up for you when you need them the most, and it's never too late to recognize and appreciate those who have always been there for you. How do you feel after hearing Amanda's story? Have you ever experienced something similar in your own life? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories to come. Stay tuned and take care.